The forest. For thousands of years, it's been a place of shelter and sustenance, a realm of natural wonder. But it's also a place of profound mystery, a vast, often impenetrable domain where the familiar world just gives way to the unknown. When the sun dips below the horizon and shadows stretch long, the woods transform. Every rustle of leaves, every distant call, every snap of a twig can take on a more sinister meaning. It's in these moments, in the deep stillness of the night, that the unexplained often finds its voice. Across cultures and continents, forests are steeped in legends of the uncanny. Tales of spectral figures, ancient spirits, and elusive creatures are whispered around hearths and campfires, passed down through generations. And at the core of so many of these legends, sounds. Eerie, inexplicable sounds that defy any simple explanation. These aren't the comforting calls of known wildlife or the mundane creaks of old trees. No, these are sounds that resonate with an unnerving intelligence, a disquieting presence. People report ghostly whispers that seem to come from nowhere, sudden terrifying cries that pierce the silence, disembodied footsteps tracking unseen paths, and deep, guttural growls that don't sound like any ordinary beast. Our mission here is to delve into this auditory enigma. We'll venture, metaphorically and through recounted experiences, into the heart of forests infamous for these chilling, unexplained sounds that echo in the dark. We aiming to uncover the disturbing real-life encounters and the ancient legends intertwined with these eerie woodlands. We explore the accounts of those who heard these sounds firsthand. Those who felt that prickling unease of being watched, of hearing something that simply should not be there. What is it about the deep woods that makes them such fertile ground for these phenomena? Is it just our heightened senses when we're isolated in the dark, our imaginations running wild? Or is there something more tangible, something ancient and unknown, that stirs in these shadowed places, making its presence known through these haunting vocalizations? The psychological impact of being alone in a vast, dark forest is undeniable. Our brains are wired to interpret unexpected noises as potential threats, a primal survival mechanism. But can all these experiences, reported so consistently across so many different places, be dismissed that easily? We want to understand what truly lurks within these lost woods, to explore the boundary between folklore and frightening reality, between the known and the profoundly unexplained. Join us as we listen to the echoes from the abyss and ask that persistent, chilling question: what is making them? Imagine yourself at the edge of a forest like that. Daylight is fading. The vibrant greens and browns of the woods are surrendering to deepening blues and purples, eventually melting into an impenetrable blackness. The air grows cooler, carrying with it the damp scent of earth, decaying leaves, and that subtle, almost imperceptible fragrance of something wild and ancient. This is the threshold, the point where the familiar world recedes and the domain of the unknown begins to assert itself. Venturing inward, even just a few dozen paces, changes everything. The sounds of civilization, distant traffic, human voices, the general hum of daily life, they just fall away, replaced by a new, more primal soundscape. At first, it's the wind, sighing through the high canopy, a sound that can easily mimic whispers or mournful cries if you let your imagination get carried away. Leaves rustle underfoot, a constant, crisp counterpoint to the silence, each step announcing your presence to whatever might be listening. Branches, unseen in the gloom, scrape against each other, producing groans and creaks that sound like an old house settling, or perhaps something far larger stirring from its slumber. These are the natural sounds, the baseline orchestra of the nocturnal forest. But it's against this backdrop that the truly unexplained sounds start to emerge, often subtly at first. You might set up recording equipment, microphones poised to capture the faintest noises, a digital ear straining against the darkness. Investigators and lone wanderers alike report similar initial experiences, a period of waiting, of getting used to the natural rhythm of the woods at night. Your own senses become hyper-alert. Every distant hoot of an owl, every skittering of a small nocturnal creature is magnified, analyzed, categorized. Your brain, a pattern-seeking machine, desperately tries to make sense of it all, to fit each sound into a known box. Yet, reports from countless individuals suggest that some sounds simply refuse to be categorized. These are the anomalies, the sonic intruders that break the natural cadence and send a shiver right down your spine. Maybe it begins as a whisper, so faint you question if you even heard it. Was it just the wind, or did it have a sibilance, a breathy quality that hinted at speech just beyond understanding? Then, a sudden crack, louder than a falling branch, echoing through the trees with no obvious source. Or a series of rhythmic thuds, like heavy footsteps, seeming to circle your position, always just out of sight, always vanishing when you try to pinpoint them. The common types of unexplained sounds reported from these eerie woodlands are remarkably consistent. Ghostly whispers, often described as unintelligible or speaking in unknown tongues, are a frequent theme. These aren't just rustling leaves. Witnesses often say they have a human-like quality, even if distorted or faint. Then there are the cries and screams. Not the identifiable call of a fox or a bird of prey, but something that sounds chillingly human, perhaps a wail of sorrow, a shriek of terror, or even the unsettling cry of a baby where no infant could possibly be. Footsteps are another common report, the distinct sound of bipedal movement, twigs snapping under unseen weight, sometimes heavy and deliberate, other times light and furtive, often seeming to follow or shadow those who venture too deep. And perhaps most terrifying are the growls. Deep, guttural, and filled with menace, these sounds are often described as being unlike any known animal in the local area, suggesting something powerful, something predatory, lurking just beyond the veil of darkness. Sometimes, the most unsettling sound is no sound at all, an unnatural silence that descends abruptly, where even the insects and the wind seem to hold their breath. This sudden absence of noise can be more terrifying than any cry, creating a palpable sense of anticipation, a feeling that something is about to happen. The difficulty in pinpointing the sources of these sounds is a recurring frustration for those who experience them. They seem to come from all directions, or from no direction at all. They fade as quickly as they appear, leaving behind a profound sense of unease and a whole lot of unanswered questions. This symphony of the unexplained is the overture to the deeper mysteries lying within these lost woods, a prelude to the legends and encounters that have given these places their haunted reputations. The forest is listening, and sometimes it seems to respond in ways we're not meant to understand. These unexplained sounds, they're nothing new. They're woven into the very fabric of folklore, the ancient stories our ancestors used to make sense of a world filled with mystery and danger. Long before we tried to find scientific explanations for every creak and whisper in the woods, these sounds were blamed on the denizens of the unseen world, spirits, mythical creatures, and the lingering echoes of tragic events. The legends surrounding haunted forests are rich with auditory details, where unexplained noises serve as warnings, omens, or the actual voices of the supernatural. Let's take a trip to some of these forests, infamous for their chilling soundscapes and the legends they've birthed. Hoia Baciu Forest, Romania. Often called the Bermuda Triangle of Romania, Hoia Baciu is a place where the veil between worlds feels dangerously thin. Its reputation is built on a foundation of inexplicable events, including strange disappearances and, importantly for us, a wide array of unexplained sounds. Legends tell of a shepherd who vanished with his entire flock of 200 sheep, never to be seen again, an event often pointed to as the start of the forest's dark fame. Another tale speaks of a young girl who disappeared into the woods for 5 years, only to reappear unchanged, with no memory of that lost time. Visitors and investigators report a disturbing cacophony, massive cracks and bangs like trees splitting, though none are found damaged, deep, guttural growls from unseen sources, and even bizarre, warped siren-like sounds that seem to mock any attempt at rational explanation. Whispers and faint laughter are also commonly reported, echoing through the unusually twisted and deformed trees that define this eerie landscape. Electronic devices are known to malfunction, and many people experience intense feelings of anxiety and the sensation of being constantly watched. The forest clearing, where vegetation mysteriously refuses to grow, is considered a hotspot for this kind of paranormal activity. What ancient sorrow, what lingering energy, gives voice to these disturbing sounds in Hoyabachu? The Black Forest, Germany, Schwarzwald. This vast, labyrinthine woodland, with its densely packed fir trees that block out the sunlight, is steeped in centuries of myth and legend. It's a place where fairy tales often take a much darker turn. The Schwarzwald is said to be the haunt of witches, who whisper their incantations to the ancient trees, their voices carried on the wind. Legends speak of cursed dungeons hidden deep within its embrace, where those accused of witchcraft met their end, their tormented spirits now echoing through the glades. Hikers have reported hearing these chilling incantations, disembodied voices carried on the breeze, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and unseen presences. Some tales even whisper that the devil himself walks these shaded paths, his passage marked by unsettling sounds and a palpable sense of ancient evil. The very silence of the Black Forest can be oppressive, broken only by sounds that seem to have no natural origin, fueling its reputation as a place where the supernatural holds sway. Wistman's Wood, England. Located in Dartmoor National Park, Wistman's Wood is an ancient, stunted oak woodland where moss-draped, gnarled trees create an atmosphere that feels otherworldly and primeval. It's often cited as one of the most haunted places in Dartmoor. Celtic traditions associate it with druidic rituals, and some believe the woods are guarded by ancient spirits. The sounds reported here are as eerie as its appearance. Ghostly figures are said to glide between the twisted trunks, accompanied by unexplained animal sounds, including the spectral baying of hellhounds, the wished hounds, believed to hunt across the moors. The rustling of leaves might not be the wind, but the passage of these spectral entities, their presence announced by sounds that prickle the skin and make anyone lingering too long after dusk pick up their pace. Old House Woods, Virginia, USA. This stretch of woodland in Matthews County, Virginia, is considered by many to be one of the most haunted locations in the state. Its history is rich with tales of pirates, colonial soldiers, and lost treasures, and these stories are often accompanied by reports of unexplained phenomena. Witnesses speak of seeing a white, floating mist that drifts silently through the trees, often accompanied by odd, unidentifiable scents and, crucially, unusual sounds. Ghostly figures of Spanish conquistadors, spectral pirates searching for buried gold, and even phantom ships appearing amongst the trees have been reported. The sounds here range from disembodied voices and the clang of spectral shovels digging for treasure to the eerie creak of a phantom ship's rigging, carried on a breeze that doesn't stir the leaves. These auditory experiences lend weight to the legends of cursed treasure and restless spirits forever bound to this patch of earth. Freetown Fall River State Forest, Massachusetts, USA. This forest lies within the infamous Bridgewater Triangle, an area of about 200 square miles in southeastern Massachusetts known for a high concentration of paranormal claims. The forest itself has a dark history and is associated with a range of unsettling phenomena. Native American lore speaks of pukwudgies, small, troll-like creatures said to be mischievous and often malicious. Visitors and locals have reported being startled by strange noises, feeling pushed by unseen forces, and even encountering these pukwudgies. The sounds within Freetown State Forest are varied and disturbing. Unexplained rustlings in the underbrush that suggest something large moving stealthily, eerie whispers, and sudden, startling cries. Disappearances and unexplained deaths have also added to its grim reputation, with some attributing these events to the dark power believed to reside within the forest, a power that sometimes makes its presence known through terrifying, unidentifiable sounds. Pocomoke Forest, Maryland, USA. Known for its cypress swamps and dense woodlands, Pocomoke Forest is another American location steeped in chilling campfire tales and urban legends, many of which locals swear are true. Unexplained noises are a cornerstone of its haunted reputation. Visitors report hearing scratching sounds on the roofs of their cars when parked near the forest edge, disembodied footsteps pacing just outside their tents, and eerie whispers that seem to drift from the depths of the swamp. Legends like that of the Hook Man, a ghostly hitchhiker, or tales of tragic lovers and spectral figures are often reinforced by these auditory experiences. These stories, passed down through generations, keep the forest's aura of mystery and dread alive, turning natural sounds into potential encounters with the unknown. Ballibally Forest, Northern Ireland. This ancient woodland has roots tied to Celtic rituals and pagan worship, with folklore suggesting it was a sacred site for druids. This history forms an ominous backdrop for centuries of strange occurrences. Visitors report strange mists, disembodied voices whispering in the distance, and sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature. More terrifying are the sightings of ghostly figures in ancient clothing and the sounds that accompany them, such as footsteps that seem to echo one's own, even when no one else is visible. Some tales even speak of mysterious disappearances and strange sensations of time slowing down or becoming distorted within the forest's depths. Animalistic growls and fleeting shadows add to the sense that the ancient spirits of the forest, or something else entirely, still reside there, making their presence known through these unsettling sounds. These are just a few examples from a world full of such places. In each of these forests, and countless others like them, the unexplained sounds aren't mere background noise. They're essential to the legends. They are the voices of the past, the whispers of the unknown, the very breath of the forest's haunted heart. The folklore serves as a cultural memory, preserving the awe and fear these places inspire, often fueled by auditory experiences that defy easy explanation and continue to intrigue and terrify those who dare to listen. Beyond the ancient legends and whispered folklore, there's a huge collection of modern, first-hand accounts, disturbing real-life encounters with unexplained sounds in the dark woods. These aren't tales from a distant past. They're the experiences of hikers, campers, paranormal investigators, and ordinary people who found themselves confronted by sounds that shake their sense of reality. These encounters often share striking similarities, no matter where they happen, painting a consistent picture of the types of sounds that come from these eerie woodlands and the profound impact they have on those who hear them. Let's look closer at the specific characteristics of these reported sounds. Ghostly whispers. This is probably one of the most commonly reported auditory phenomena in supposedly haunted forests. Witnesses describe hearing soft, breathy voices that seem to come from no clear source. Often, the speech is unintelligible, just a sibilance or murmuring that teases the edge of understanding. Sometimes, a specific word or name might be picked out, adding a more personal and often more terrifying layer to the experience. People report these whispers seeming to encircle them, to come from directly behind them, or even from within the trees themselves. The sound is often fleeting, making the listener question their own sanity. Was it just the wind or the rustle of leaves? Yet, the persistence of such reports, often described with a conviction that it was genuinely vocal, suggests something more. Imagine hearing your name whispered when you're miles from another human soul, the sound distinct yet untraceable. The psychological impact is immense. Screams and cries. Among the most startling and unnerving sounds reported are inexplicable screams and cries. These aren't the typical calls of nocturnal animals, which experienced woods people can often identify. Instead, accounts describe high-pitched shrieks of terror, mournful wails that seem to carry immense sorrow, or the distinct, chilling sound of a baby crying in a place where no infant could possibly be. Sounds like these are deeply disturbing because they tap into our natural empathy and alarm responses. A scream means danger or distress, and not being able to find its source or help the supposed victim can create intense anxiety and fear. Reports from Deering Woods in Kent, England, also known as the Screaming Woods, frequently mention such terrifying vocalizations, believed by some to be the tormented spirits of those who died there. The sheer terror conveyed in some of these reported screams is enough to send even the most hardened investigators running. Footsteps and bangs. The feeling of being followed or approached by something unseen is a common theme in forest encounters, and this feeling is often backed up by distinct auditory cues. People report hearing the clear sound of footsteps, sometimes heavy and deliberate, as if a large person or creature is walking nearby, and other times light and stealthy, like someone trying to sneak up on them. Twigs snap, leaves crunch under unseen weight, and the pacing can sometimes seem to mimic the listener's own movements, stopping when they stop and starting again when they move. Sudden, loud bangs or cracks, like a gunshot or a large tree branch snapping violently, are also reported, often with no visible cause. These sounds can be incredibly jarring, shattering the stillness of the night and creating an immediate sense of threat. In places like Bilibili Forest, footsteps have been heard that seem to echo the walker's own, even when they are demonstrably alone. Animalistic growls and snarls. Perhaps the most primal fear is triggered by reports of deep, guttural growls and snarls that seem to come from the darkness. Witnesses often insist that these sounds are unlike those of any known local wildlife. They're described as being powerful, menacing, and suggestive of a large, predatory creature. These growls can seem to come from very close by, sometimes accompanied by the sound of heavy breathing or rustling in the undergrowth, ramping up the terror. The feeling of being stalked by an unknown, aggressive entity can be overwhelming. Tales from various forests around the world include such encounters, where the unseen presence is only betrayed by its terrifying vocalizations, leaving the listener to imagine what kind of creature could produce such a sound. Unnatural silence. Paradoxically, an absolute and sudden silence in a forest can be just as unnerving as any strange noise. Experienced outdoors people know that a healthy forest is usually alive with sound, insects, birds, the rustling of small animals. When this ambient chorus abruptly stops, it can indicate the presence of a larger predator, or, in the context of these eerie encounters, something far stranger. This unnatural stillness is often described as a heavy, oppressive silence, amplifying the sense of dread and anticipation, as if the forest itself is holding its breath before something significant happens. The emotional and psychological impact. The effect of these unexplained sounds on witnesses is profound. Fear is the most common reaction, ranging from mild unease to paralyzing terror. Many report an overwhelming sense of being watched or not being alone, even when they can see nothing. This can lead to intense anxiety, paranoia, and a desperate urge to get out of the area. Sudden drops in temperature, the appearance of strange mists, or odd lights are also frequently reported along with these sounds, further heightening the sense of an encounter with the paranormal. Investigators in Hoya Bachu, for example, report sudden dizziness and an oppressive feeling accompanying strange sounds and visual anomalies. Similarly, visitors to Bilibili Forest speak of strange mists and temperature drops alongside disembodied voices. These aren't isolated incidents. Online forums and paranormal investigation communities are filled with personal testimonies that mirror these descriptions. People recount being woken in their tents by footsteps circling them, hearing whispers just outside their windows when their house backs onto woods, or capturing EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, on recordings that seem to respond to questions. The consistency of these accounts across different people, times, and locations suggests that something is indeed happening in these woods, something that manifests primarily through sound, leaving those who experience it with a lingering sense of awe, fear, and profound mystery. These voices in the dark continue to challenge our understanding of the natural world and hint at possibilities that lie just beyond our everyday perception. The persistent question echoes through every rustling leaf, every snapped twig, every chilling, disembodied whisper. What is making them? For every person who blames these eerie forest sounds on ghosts, spirits, or unknown creatures, there are others looking for more down-to-earth, scientific explanations. The truth, perhaps, lies in a complex mix of natural phenomena, human psychology, and the genuinely unexplained. Let us first explore the potential natural explanations, the ways the forest itself can create sounds that deceive and unnerve. The forest's own voice, natural acoustics, and misinterpretations. Dense forests have unique acoustic properties. Sound can travel in strange ways, bouncing off trees, getting muffled by foliage, or being carried by wind currents to create illusions of direction and distance. Wind, this is often the prime suspect. Wind sighing through pine needles can create a whispering sound. Stronger gusts rattling branches can sound like chattering, knocking, or even moans. Branches rubbing against each other in the wind can produce surprisingly loud creaks, groans, and scraping noises, which can easily sound like footsteps or something heavy moving. Animals. Many nocturnal animals make a variety of sounds that can be mistaken for something more sinister by an untrained ear. Foxes can let out blood-curdling screams. Owls can hoot in ways that sound like mournful calls. And deer or boar moving through underbrush can sound surprisingly loud and heavy. The distress call of an animal or the sounds of a predator and prey encounter can be particularly unsettling. However, many experiencers, especially those familiar with local wildlife, insist that the sounds they heard didn't match any known animal. Falling debris. Trees naturally shed branches, and in old forests, entire trees can fall. The sharp crack of a breaking branch or the thud of a falling limb can be startlingly loud and sudden, easily mistaken for a gunshot or a deliberate bang. Rocks can also get dislodged on slopes, creating scraping or tumbling sounds. Water. The sound of running water, even a small hidden stream, can create a variety of noises. It can gurgle, splash, and murmur. In certain conditions, these sounds can be distorted or amplified, potentially sounding like whispers or voices. Temperature changes. Rapid drops in temperature can cause trees to contract, sometimes producing sharp cracking or popping sounds as the wood fibers respond to the stress. This is particularly common in colder climates or during big weather shifts. The human element, psychology, and perception. Our brains are wired to find patterns and meaning, even in random stimuli. This is especially true when we're on high alert or scared, like being alone in a dark forest. Auditory pareidolia. This is when the brain interprets random sounds as familiar patterns, like voices or music. The rustling of leaves or the gurgle of water might be misheard as whispers or speech, especially if you're already expecting something unusual. Many people report hearing their name called when alone, which can be a form of this. Heightened senses and anxiety. In a dark, unfamiliar environment, our senses become sharper. Every sound is magnified. Anxiety and fear can further distort our perception, making ordinary sounds seem threatening or inexplicable. That jump you do at a sudden, unexpected noise. That's a deeply ingrained survival mechanism. The power of suggestion. If you go into a forest known for being haunted, or you're already thinking about spooky stories, you're more likely to interpret ambiguous sounds in a paranormal way. Folklore and stories passed down can shape our expectations and how we interpret things. Infrasound. Some researchers have looked into whether low-frequency sound waves, infrasound, which are below our range of hearing, but can be felt as vibrations, might be responsible for feelings of unease, dread, or even the sense of a presence. While not directly explaining audible sounds, it could add to the overall eerie atmosphere in certain places. Infrasound can come from natural sources, wind, earthquakes, ocean waves, or even man-made ones. When natural explanations fall short, while many strange forest sounds can probably be chalked up to the factors above, there's still a core of experiences that seem to defy easy explanation. Complexity and intelligence. Some reported sounds, like coherent, though maybe foreign-sounding, whispers, responsive noises, or sounds that seem to interact with the listener, are harder to just dismiss as wind or animal calls. For example, the accounts from Hoya Baciu of warped siren sounds or distinct laughter are particularly puzzling. Lack of identifiable source. Despite thorough searches, no natural source is often found for these specific sounds. This is a common report from paranormal investigators who use sensitive recording equipment. Corroborating phenomena. When unexplained sounds come with other weird experiences, like sudden temperature drops, inexplicable lights, electronics going haywire, or physical sensations, like being touched or pushed, it becomes harder to blame everything on misinterpretation. The Bridgewater Triangle encounters, for instance, often involve more than just sounds. Consistency of reports. The striking similarity in the types of unexplained sounds reported across vastly different places and by people with no connection to each other is compelling. Whispers, cries, footsteps, and growls are recurring themes. This is where the line blurs, and the possibility of the truly unexplained, perhaps even paranormal, creeps in. Could these sounds be echoes of past events, somehow imprinted on the environment? Are they the vocalizations of unknown creatures or entities from beyond our normal perception? Could some forests act as windows or areas where the veil between dimensions is thinner, as some legends like those of Hoyabachu suggest? The climax of our investigation isn't a neat answer, but rather a confrontation with the sheer depth of the mystery itself. Even if 99% of eerie forest sounds have conventional explanations, that remaining 1% fuels our fascination and fear. The sounds recorded and reported, the chilling whispers that seem to carry intent, the heartbreaking cries from nowhere, the footsteps of something unseen that stalks the darkness. These are the true enigmas. They challenge our understanding of the world around us, forcing us to consider that not everything in the deep, dark woods can be easily cataloged or dismissed. The question, what is making them, remains hanging heavy in the air, as persistent and unsettling as the sounds themselves. Despite our best efforts to categorize, analyze, and explain, a profound sense of mystery still surrounds these eerie forest sounds. Recordings capture whispers that defy linguistic analysis, cries that echo with an unidentifiable sorrow, and growls that seem to belong to no known creature. Eyewitness accounts, shared with genuine fear and bewilderment, speak of experiences that go beyond simple misinterpretations of natural noises. These sounds persist, not just in investigators' recordings or startled hikers' memories, but in our collective human imagination, a testament to the power of the unknown. Why do these haunted forests and their unexplained sounds keep fascinating and frightening us so deeply? Maybe it's because they tap into something primal within us. Forests are ancient, often wild spaces that predate human civilization. In their depths, we can feel small and vulnerable, our modern sense of control just slipping away. The darkness, the isolation, and the unfamiliar sounds heighten our senses and ignite our imaginations, making these woodlands fertile ground for ghost stories and legends. Cultural storytelling also plays a huge role. Folklore and oral traditions, passed down through generations, reinforce the mysterious aura of these places. These narratives transform natural phenomena, or perhaps genuinely inexplicable events, into supernatural tales, embedding the eerie sounds into the very identity of the forest. Stories of witches in the Black Forest, spectral hounds in Wistman's Wood, or the vanished shepherd of Hoyabachu all contribute to an atmosphere where strange sounds are not just heard, but expected interpreted through a lens of existing legend. What's more, unsolved mysteries, genuine disappearances, unexplained deaths, and historical tragedies linked to these locations add a layer of real-world intrigue to the supernatural legends. These unresolved events create a sense that something is amiss, that restless spirits or dark energies might indeed linger, their presence betrayed by these unsettling sounds. The enduring enigma of these sounds lies in their refusal to be neatly packaged and explained away. They exist at the crossroads of the known and the unknown, the natural and the potentially supernatural. They challenge our assumptions about the world and remind us that there are still corners of our planet, and perhaps dimensions of reality, that we don't fully comprehend. The lost woods keep their secrets, and their voices, whether spectral or simply unexplained, continue to call out from the darkness, ensuring their place in our deepest fears and most compelling mysteries. So, what do you think is making these sounds? Do you believe they're the product of natural forces, tricks of the mind, or something more? Share your theories, your own encounters, and your interpretations in the comments below. We really want to hear your stories. If you've ever been deep in the woods and heard something you simply couldn't explain, let us know. And if you're intrigued by the unexplained and want to join us on more journeys into the heart of mystery, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell. The heart of the forest beats with a rhythm all its own, and sometimes, within that rhythm, jarring notes emerge, sounds that speak of mystery, of fear, of the utterly inexplicable. From ghostly whispers to terrifying cries, these auditory enigmas continue to haunt our woodlands and our imaginations. Whether they're echoes of forgotten tragedies, the voices of unknown entities, or simply the complex symphony of nature playing tricks on our senses, they serve as a potent reminder. The world is still full of shadows and sounds that defy easy answers. What truly lurks in the dark, making those eerie sounds, remains one of the forest's most captivating and chilling secrets.